All right, this is the Koori Knockout podcast. This is the first one that we're doing. We've been planning this one for a while, and all we're really trying to do is we're people who talk about the knockout 24/7. I know that there's a lot of people out there like us. We sit around and talk knockout from October to October. We try and put a ban on at some part of the year, but it never happens. We've got Dean Widders, Tommy Tucker, and Matt Rose on here today. I'm George Rose. We're from Walgett. We're from WAC. Dean Widders, known legend.
Legend.
We just want to be able to yarn knockout, and that's what we're doing. Dino, what do you reckon?
Yeah, oh, bro, lovely yarn, and yeah, right. We do talk about it on lounges and seats and in offices like this all year round. So to try and get it out there for the rest of the people and share that passion, I can't wait to yarn with you. It's been a long time coming, sitting down and talking knockout with you.
I know, it has been too long. And you know what? We want to be able to bring different teams in each week. We'll be doing this every week, every 2 weeks. We'll bring in a different representative from a team each week to come and tell your yarn about your team, tell your yarn about some of your old stories, old experiences with the knockout, and that's what we just want to do. We want to keep reliving our old experiences. We want to keep talking about what's coming up for the knockout. And speaking of what's coming up for the knockout, obviously, WAC hosting the knockout this year. So we're hosting that in Bathurst. Nomination forms are available on our website. It's www.waxsports.com.au. So jump on there to get your team nominations. We'll make sure that we give plenty of updates on here as well. So you'll get a regular update on what's happening for the knockout coming up for this year. There'll be a delegates meeting coming up soon too. We'll talk to Jeffo Simpson about that. Jeffo will be your contact for that. He'll be sharing all of that information to all the teams coming up very soon. But the main thing that we're here for is just a yarn footy, yarn knockouts. Actually, we do have a knockout that's just passed. So just recently, the Koori Knockout was on. Tommy Tucker, what can you tell us about that?
Oh, we just went out to Koori probably about 3 weeks ago with no sort of expectation. Thought, oh yeah, it might be just like the old knockouts we used to go to. You turn up, see who's playing with who, see who's swapping last second. So I went in there and I said, oh, I'm not going to run no water, I'm just going to go and watch football today. And it took me about 3 minutes to get a team. So I ended up running the water for the King Browns. And they surprised everyone. They won 5 games. Started 8 o'clock in the morning. And they played till 8 o'clock that night. And 5 games of footy, obviously. And it was just a mad feeling. They just had sort of like a couple of good players. Just like the old days, a couple of rake-up players.
Good water boy.
They had a good water boy. But I was taking out hot water there during those middle games, and the boys were knocking it back. They said, "Can you get some ice, please?" I said, "They flash footballers, these fellas. You can't get ice on a footy oval." So anyway, someone went up the survey for the next 2 or 3 games. They put a bit of ice in there, and there she was like Michael Jordan magic ice stuff. What do you call it? NBA Jam. Space Jam. That's what it's called. So yeah, they end up winning that grand final, which. They celebrated that.
Who'd they beat in the final?
They beat Koori Brothers, so I think they were probably the local second division team. Plus they had Fergo and a couple of Newcastle division players there, like Newcastle, what are they called? Newcastle
Local
comp.
Yeah. Strong comp.
And Fergo had a game there and the boys was giving it to him just to try to put him off. And yeah, he set up a couple of tries, but King Browns are just too good in the end, too much passion.
Who'd the King Browns have?
They had Bretton Cochran, Yum. He was back to his best, just running, tackling, doing everything he can. I think he done his knee there in a couple of games. He got lifted in the chops. His little tooth was busted. he had to have a couple of Panadols, a few Nurophens. He said, "Come on now, I can't be sitting around watching this. I've got to get back on there." So anyway, he come on the grand final and he just set the standard. He was driving them. And the young fellas just put in and, they just watched it like Dino and the boys used to play. If they got in at a crack, young fellas, they thought they could do it too.
And Dino, your boy went out there and played.
He went all the way up there. He drove. I think he got there at like 2 o'clock in the morning. He played his first game and they won, and he was feeling good about it. And the next one, his team got kicked out because they played a suspended player. I think Wesley was coach, but what happened?
Do you think that the further you go out there, that these fellas think the rules don't exist or what? Oh.
He was filthy. He said, I drove all that way, got there at 2 o'clock in the morning, got up, played football, and team got kicked out. They had no chance of playing any more footy, so
Yeah,
we were ready to drive home.
I think I was looking for those good sides, and next minute they said, no, they won, but they're gone. So a couple of the other sides, they thought, well, there's an easy entry to the finals. So they were pretty happy, I think. So, yeah.
So Country King Browns winning the Moree Knockout.
Yeah, Buffy Lane there. He lives in Bathurst, and he was a coach. He was a good, very good knockout player for Whack and Gadurga. He played a lot of years with Whack, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he was probably one of the most dangerous dummy halves you could ever see at the knockout. He'd scoot that ball up and somehow he could sell a dummy.
He'd always score, wouldn't he?
He scored deeper tries there. He wouldn't. He'd still sell it though. He'd go like that. It's every week he'd look that way and bang.
Burrow straight over.
Straight over, and he's just like a little bullet just going straight under.
Yeah, that good combination with Bubba too.
Bro, all the teams out west starting to dominate, aren't they?
We're coming.
You're getting Gadooga, like, Wellington, remember they were in the final down there at the South Coast, and Walgett's winning, War.
Moree gave Yowies a red hot crack last year.
Yeah, Gadooga's starting to get their little thing together. Burke's been
Toomala's
strong.
always in the mix.
Yeah, what's going on? All them towns out west.
Castle Ray.
Yeah.
Moree just about had that game won against the Yowies. It's just that the Yowies made that last break down that right-hand side, and I think Cuzzo, he just had that one little extra push, and Almay just jumped over the sideline, got the penalty, and then they couldn't hold him out. They just went to that left side, and she was over in about 3 tackles.
Did you watch that game?
Yeah, I watched it. You
You
know
were
I
meant to be
don't
running
miss.
the water for us when we were warming up.
But I probably ran the water for another team. Who knows? I'm a knockout whore. You got to get in there. But I was a bit windy though, because I know I had my Whack shirt on. I didn't know whether to wear it around the next day.
Now, look, what we want to do each time when we have the podcast, we want to bring on a representative of a team and talk a little bit about that team's history, that team's story, some of their good yarns. Tommy Tucker, tell us a little bit about you and your first game of the knockout, what your knockout history is.
Well, knockout history is that, like you guys, our fathers were involved with BAC back in the day, and you can hear a little tremor in my voice. It makes you feel like, proud, and that just that era of those tough players, but also knowing that our fathers were involved and the whole community was involved, and it meant something. Dino would know about this being from Narran, because when you played knockout, you just played for everyone, and the supporters were just as intense as us. We had big support when BAC won it 3 years in a row. When you played footy in Walgett, they were hard to beat. They took it out of, they'd done defeated. They took it out of Walgett, and that's when we were vulnerable. But yeah, our fathers involved, and Matt and I we watched a lot of that. We watched a lot of those fellas talk about knockouts and who they could recruit, and the fellas like Wilfred Williams that come into the BAC sides and fresh out of probably Sydney football. He was ripped. We'd all used to get the autographs. Hey, I was only playing park footy, country footy, but Bull Dennis, all those type of fellas. We watched them play.
You looked up to them like NRL, like more than NRL stars, back then. I remember the local fellas, you just heard all the stories about them all the time. I used to love it.
Yeah, Dino, exactly. We as ball boys and sand boys back then, and
Cheap too.
we just used to, we loved everything about knockout. Growing up, from when we could walk and being involved in it, and then watching our fathers do, be involved, and us getting that that passion for knockout was instilled early, So it's something that never ever leaves you, and now pass on to our kids, because we want them to have that same feeling of playing knockout and the dream of winning a knockout and all the rest of it, and we've got to achieve that. But I remember my first game was at Nambucca.
What number was it? 15?
Yeah, I think
17?
17
Was
maybe.
it a big
Tuck.
Guernsey or what?
Yeah, it was a big Guernsey. A big Guernsey. I was looking at the picture the other day, actually. I've got the photo the other day, and I couldn't make the BAC team, and I played with another Walgett team. It was Gingy actually, and we had a good enough team to sort of turn up and compete, and we played against
First dummy up.
we played against Taree,
Big fellas?
and they were big, two real big fellas up front
Yeah,
rowers.
Big Dennis, Big Dennis.
Yeah.
It's Latrell's
Latrell's uncle,
uncles.
yeah.
And they were massive. They were big, and they had
Long
big
hair.
dreads
That was them,
dreads
yeah.
hair,
Can I
or
jump
big
in?
long hair. Yeah, go on.
They were the biggest
Jump in
fellas.
whenever you want.
They were the biggest fellas I ever seen play
Yeah.
knockout. Now, I mean, you get George and, you know, you get those sort of fellas. George is massive. Like, you try to tackle him on your own. Well, I thought I could tackle him at 17. He killed me. You get these fellas, they were units, Dino.
Yeah,
Like,
they could run too.
did you always think South Taree, I'm going to see how big they are this year? Them and Tabulum.
They were probably the two biggest black fellas I've ever seen in front
Yeah, no, I'll tell you. Well,
back in them days.
the story is the boys were all sitting up on the hill. You know that hill that was at Nambucca there? They were all sitting there. And I got thrown on the field. And they just threw me on into any position. And I was thinking, this is my first knockout, you know. And I was there and I was windy and they got the tap. And that big fella running off the tap and he ran straight at me. And I was thinking, if I don't make the tackle, they got to... So I just threw my little shoulder in him. I think I weighed about 61 kilo. And I dropped him and he hit the ground. All the boys roared up on the hill.
You're about 18?
Yeah, I couldn't feel my shoulder for the rest of the knockout, but we got beat. I think in the end they ran away and beat us by about 20. But I still remember that first tackle, and I remember not feeling my shoulder for the rest of the game or probably the rest of the knockout. But it's those experiences you never ever forget, and I'll remember for the rest of my life. And the fact that we connected up with Latrell later on in life, and then Latrell tells us about the yarn.
Our uncles.
So it's mad that we can look back in history and never forget about those things. And I think that's what this podcast's all about too, is reliving what's happened in the past and making sure these little yarns never die. And Tuck's got 1,000 of them. Dino's got 1,000 of them. They're things that we want to tell and people understand what the connection's all about.
Well, I remember those knockouts even before the year before that, or 2 years before that, when we were all 16, 17, Moree and Burke knockouts. And I had a game and I played with Windradyne Warriors. This is after we moved from Walgett to Bathurst. My dad, he was the boss of Windradyne, and we made the grand final 2 years in a row.
They had a good team, Dino. Remember them?
Yeah, so we played. We made the grand final twice. We should have won the first one in Moree.
Yeah.
Things just didn't go away in the last couple of minutes. And the second one, Nambucca were hot, and I think they had everyone says this, but I think they had easy draw, and they might even got a bye, maybe 2 byes. So. When you play in
What you saying? You saying they cheat in the
No,
draw?
I'm just
Because they used to grab it out of the hat, eh? It was pretty easy.
You know, they always say they had a buy, and then there's always one fella every now and then go, I think they even had 2 buys. And I thought, there you go, you can't beat no knockout team with that. So anyway, they beat us quite convincingly in the final, and I got on in the last probably 2.
I have to say, one year when Narwhal won it in Armidale, so when Narwhal hosted in Armidale, and you fellas won your first ever knockout, I was sitting there and it was on NITV, and they were drawing the names out of the hat, right? And I'm sitting just on the commentary thing there, and I'm looking, I'm going, I can actually see the names of the teams from where I'm sitting there.
They come out the same?
The fellow who was pulling them out was Troy Smith, Slowpoke. He can see the names too, bro. So when he pulled Narwhal out, I was watching him, I was thinking, he pulled our team out here now. So he just grabbed the easiest one. And he was right there.
I seen him
They
in
draw
more.
out a hat and they
That's
had
why
the-
we got the hard draw that year.
He's got the hard draw. But
Well,
I was like, surely someone's cotton onto this. Like, you can actually see the names sticking out of that. They had it in a hat, like a cowboy hat. And they had the names on a long thing.
What, the
You could
handwriting
see-
like-
You could see the end of the names on the long... Oh,
Thinking of draws, Dino, I don't know if you remember, but
Didn't you have two teams that year?
yeah, we're two.
And then I
Always
reckon-
put 2 teams.
Yeah, but
blue and
was there
yellow,
a
so you
bit
can
of,
pick
was
the
there a
easy
little bit of
draw.
swapsies or that? All right.
I can't give away too much.
Yeah, I don't know.
on
Watching this.
that draw, do you remember we were on our way up to, I think it might have been the Lismore knockout, and we drew...
No, the Tweed Heads one, they
Was
had
it
to
Tweed
do
Heads?
the draw again. They had to do the redraw.
Tweed Heads, that's what it was. And we was driving up, and I think we got to Coss Harbour, and we drew Yowies. And Wok rang me straight away, and he said, rightio, we're playing each other, because we hadn't played each other in the knockout like that, and especially first
Yeah,
game.
first game.
And then an hour later, he rang back. They said, "Nah, they forgot one of the teams that was left on the floor. They had to do the redraw. They redrew everyone again, and we didn't get each other. And that's when you fellas won it, I think.
Yeah, we won it, and we drew Tinga.
The first one?
First one, and then so we were going to play Tinga, and they had a good side.
That would
So
have been
they
local.
made the semi-finals that year, Tinga, but then they scrubbed that draw, and then we ended up going a different draw. And then
Who
Tinga,
did you get that first game in Tweed then?
we ended up playing. I can't remember.
I
who it
remember
was.
you played
We played
basically
Minda River.
all before
Kempsey.
before the Minder game. You played basically all the local brothers, like
Yeah.
fellas who either lived in Armidale and then moved to Newcastle. I think you played at Kempsey side.
So we had a hard draw up there too, because we played Newcastle first game, Newcastle Emus back in
Yeah.
the days when they were strong, and then
I think it might have been-
then we went up against Kempsey, Macleay, and they
Yeah.
nearly beat us actually. They had
Yeah.
a really good side. Minda River. We ended up playing. We thought we were going to play years in the final because years were red hot. Years had the team, and then Waterloo, we ended up beating Waterloo in the semi final.
That's who we would have played you in the semi-final. Waterloo beat us by a field
We
goal
couldn't
with
believe it because I
a
think
minute
we
to
were the
go.
last. We were the last game. And we couldn't believe it that Walgers just lost their game there. 'Cause we were preparing for a
I
big
watched
game.
that
the next
game.
day.
I feel like with that Waterloo game, I still remember that they just got the ball in that last 3 minutes at the right time. There might have been a mistake there somewhere. And if you're coming in 40 metres out with at least 2 minutes to go, and I think it was
chance.
like 16, 18, or whatever it was a draw at the time, and they just so happened to have that fifth tackle right underneath the post.
Yeah, but they weren't expected to kick that field goal. Like
done it right underneath.
We held them out.
It was about 8
Little boy
metres out
Hoppy,
from the
wasn't
post.
it? Bernard Hopkins, boy Hoppy.
It was about a metre. It was about a metre out. We weren't expecting him to kick the field goal.
Well, bro, you know when I talk about the passion, and you spoke about that, we got it from watching our dads play. And I remember because Thomas up there, he was one of my best mates, Thomas Briggs, growing up.
Yeah.
And
Cuz.
his mother would talk about all the Walger fellas,
Yeah.
your father and all these fellas. And when they went through that period there, I was thinking, oh, this is the power of football.
Yeah.
And I just one of my best memories, like outside of my own knockouts, was seeing George on that camera that day when you won that first knockout, and the passion just come through.
Right.
Like I look at our yard now, when it comes to knockout, you're still running around and playing. But what I saw that first day was the same passion that I had for the knockout, and you're in tears and you won. So take me through that day. It was in my hometown too. I loved it.
No, well, it was the whole thing. Like we'd followed the knockout, played in the knockout, done everything for so many years. So many times we got knocked out first round, second round, but we turned up to win every time we turned up. And I think even that weekend alone, the games that we played in, there was games that we shouldn't have won. I remember when we played Tinga, and they had Macca and Yum Yum. You could not tackle Yum Yum, like he was impossible to stop. And Macca was killing it. We had a real close game there. We had
The first game there, you won. South Coast, you were in front comfortably at half time, but then they made a little comeback.
Yeah.
Andrew Walker,
Yeah.
and he might have been kicking 40-20s or
He
something.
could beat you by himself, Andrew Walker.
And-
Come back, it was 16-all draw.
And these fellas here was like, I was thinking, they're gone. The ball's in Walker's hands, or they had the scrum feed 10 out, heading, they had the ball.
yeah.
I think the boys said, we've got to push your scrum hard, and George and them just went, like a rugby scrum.
Win him against the feet.
Win them against the
There,
feet.
straight at the tuck, Terry Tucker, the other tuck.
Andrew Walker, you're going to finish us off if he gets that ball.
And then they
100%.
tuck scores in the corner. Or
Yeah.
Letty gets it and sets him up.
And then even the next day, Nulla Sunrise, that was a freaky little team. Fergo was young, Albie Kelly was young, but they, again, we come back to get that win. We were down and out.
I think there might have been
Prior to that, we had the Queensland team.
Yeah,
Wollumben.
Yeah, they used to have some crazy games
Yeah.
with just,
Remember Big Backo?
Backo. He made a
Backo.
break there, and
Yeah.
I think Kyle...
He was big, hey. Dan Backo. Far out.
I think they were in front 8-0 or something, and the big fella made another break, and Webby just come from nowhere and just hits him.
Yeah, Kyle Webb.
And at that stage, you'd be nearly running out of time to catch him. And he saved that sort of moment, that try, and then he's get back into it somehow.
But there was all them games that
Like
we...
that,
all three of them games we probably should have lost as well. Like Nulla we came back from.
Matt scored a couple of chipper
Minda
chases
was a
there
hard
against
one.
Nulla.
Matt was fresh then,
George
eh?
is back in the inside.
But that final...
Oh, he's fresh. He played the full season.
How much he's won it. Because remember the tackle on Toddy Phillips in the corner when you jumped up like you won the world title? But,
When's that
but
against Sue?
it was just the desperation.
Oh,
And that's
yes.
what you had in that
Yeah.
whole game. Was
Well-
that desperation got you through to win it.
Well,
And
we only watched it back the other day, and because we always laugh about that moment when he jumps up, putting his hands up like that there.
Yeah, but to be
you
fair, if they
actually look
score,
at the
they
tackle.
win.
They do. They
win
game
the
it
tackle.
over.
That
They
was
win a knockout, we
unbelievable.
don't win.
And it's funny, like a knockout, it is like that, eh? You're climbing a mountain. You never actually feel that you're going to win it. You can be put out. There's occasions, like you said, against Wollumba, you're beaten. Against the other teams, you Nulla, you're gone. But you find a way somehow to get it. And that's why it means so much to win. Because you
100%.
can only win that if you got desperation and if you got that hunger from it. And you got it from as a young kid, for your older brother, for your dad and the stories. Because that was the same story I had.
You wanted to
When
win.
When I won it, I knew I had to put my body through hell to do it, but I was prepared because I wanted it that bad. Where I don't reckon all the players I got that.
No, well, I mean, and for us, like we went through the period. All of us were ball boy or sand boy or water boy or anything that we could be from a young age. So we were around the team and wanted to be a part of the knockout from a young age, and watching these other fellas play and learning from them. Like that's why it was such a huge honour to get the opportunity to actually play, even win, lose or draw, just to get to play in the knockout.
Because by passion and hunger, that gets you that try-saving tackle.
It does. It does. When you think you're down and out, and there's moments left on the clock, and they can win games, or they can win the game through one missed tackle or one mistake. I think that's what knockout's all about. You look back after the game and you think of the little crucial moments that have happened in the game that could have ended the whole knockout, because we've all been through that same scenario each year. You turn up, and no matter what side you got, you're confident you can win the knockout.
Matt's always had that attitude, and
Yeah.
I've always said, Brad, how are you going to go? And he just looks at me in the eye and says, we'll beat them, Brad. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and we look back
We've been
now
saying
at
it for
some of the
30
teams
years.
we had.
Yeah, and I'm thinking
over
he
the-
bowled this far.
We probably didn't never have the team to win it.
That's the
but
cockiness
we
you gotta have.
We come with that
Passion.
attitude, no matter if we get beat first game, which we did many times. But what people don't realise, it was many times. I think it was about
Struggled, yeah.
10 times out of the 24 knockouts that I played that we got beat first round. And what we do is then we have to wait another 12 months to get our little team together. And
But brother, that same passion you had for winning the knockout, you got the same passion now for running the knockout. Because I see that when you go there, you give everything to it. You want to contribute, whether you're running the knockout or you're the winning host or you're supporting. And I've been on that other side when my team's hosting it, and you fellas are there to help in any
Yeah.
way. And that's why, for me, I'm always excited when you get it, because
They look after you.
You have to be honest. You've elevated the knockout every time you've hosted it and taken it to a level, and that's only good for black fellas. It's the best thing for all of us. All of us win when you
I
take
feel
it
like
to
that
and-
started. Sorry.
Yeah, you go, bro.
I feel like that started in Dubbo too, when they took it to Dubbo. You might not have got the results at the knockout as in winning it, but that knockout where you just hosted it, looked after, went very professional. I don't think the standard's high from there. And every time you do go back and win it.
Who contributes to it? Because I know DeWeedy was there with us for a long time, and obviously look at his experience at the NRL and the way he ran things. But he's got a good crew there. Who contributes to taking these events and running them as good as you can? And then you took that from running the knockout to running boxing, at the world-class high level.
yeah. Yeah, no, I guess from a knockout point of view, it's, there's been Mark DeWeedy, Jeffo,
Well, got knockouts
Simpson,
too.
all the different people that come together as part of that same time. Daryl Hamilton travels back. We've got uncles and aunties that come back. Mum's always run the canteen. She's run the canteen for 30 years.
You get
know,
friends
still
of
can't
friends.
get her out
You
of
get
it.
friends of friends.
Yeah, we just have everyone that just come in. Yeah, now we have friends of friends.
Little kids bringing,
Yeah.
and just putting
Yeah.
the bread on the bench.
I think it's about continuing the environment that we always had, because back when we were talking about
Hard
back in the
work.
day with Dad, they all jumped in and cooked the barbecue or made sure the team was right, and I guess we just sort of always felt we'd follow that path to make sure we could be the biggest and best we could be. It took us a long time to get there, and once you're there, you want to then take the opportunity. How do we make the knockout better, and how do we make it so that everyone turns up and gets excited, and each team feels like they're at the biggest event in the world? And it is. It's the biggest gathering of Aboriginal people for such a sporting event in the world. and that's how we want everyone to feel when they walk through those gates. So this year we're planning on some big and bold things around when you turn up at the knockout. You're feeling special and you're ready to jump through your skin, and everyone comes there with the same passion and excitement that we have, no matter what.
One thing I will add to that too is that we push each other as hard as we possibly can, and I think the group that we have.
How hard do you push each other?
Everyone that just got mentioned, I think everybody pushes each other and everybody strives to be better, and I think it takes from what we do on the footy field too. Like a lot of the things that we did on the footy field. Like we think back at that Armidale knockout. I was absolutely fucked, and you know, Matt would still look at me and he'd say, "I need one run. I need one run. You've got to push yourself." And so I'd be like, "Look, you know, fuck him. I've done more than him. Yeah, give me the ball then." And I'd push myself harder than what he expected of me, because I wanted to prove a point that I can do what's expected of me.
But
And then I reckon we take that same attitude into what we do for work here now, is that when we say we want to make the knockout bigger and better, and it's like, well, shit, you know, like you can't do that. And like, no, let's try this out. We want to do it. And like, we'll stuff it. We'll prove it that we can do it. And it's taken that same, all the skills that we have as a footy team, as a squad, as a club that we've had together, we take that into business as well. And I reckon a lot of people could take the same thing, is that all the skill sets and drive that you have on a footy field, you can put it into other aspects of your life and still be successful. And I reckon that's what we're lucky with this group that we have, is that we push each other every day.
And it's love, eh? And it's grown out of a knockout story that started from when you were kids and led to a tackle and a push in yourself. And I had that same love and same passion, and I got it from my and the thing about community, that's what I love. And I want all the mob out there, I suppose, is to get behind it, to get behind the passion and the love that you've got for blackfellas being successful and going to the next level and pushing. Because, you know, you go to America and that's all they want from each other.
Yeah.
Over here, we sort of sometimes try and pull people down when they're doing well. And if we do that, guess what? We're all going to stay down.
leave them behind.
If you pull each other down, brother, we're always going to stay down. Our mob's always going to be down at the low. But if we get used to pushing people up, guess what? We all rise. And one thing I've always said is you fellas have always done is always taken a lot of people with you on the ride. So if you go good, guess what? You drag other mobs, other communities, other teams. Sometimes you're back in the other teams just as much, you know, as getting behind them and hoping that they do well, or helping them set up their teams. And you're hoping that, you know, Latrell and Cody can get their communities going. Well, Cody's starting to do that with his community.
They're not far off either.
And they'll start winning, and you fellas will be kicking yourselves because you help instigate it. But it's that, get them to do what you've done. I think it's good for all mobs
But I
out there.
also look forward to going up there and having a knockout up there one day. I reckon that'll be unreal.
I've always said about those teams up north and south with a lot of Aboriginal, with those, you know, comps with a lot of Aboriginal players, that when they get to the knockout, they are the beat. Like you throw them, you know, Robertsons together and all them bolts, and you get the people down south, you and Monaro fellas, when they all come together, or, you know, like the Cockatoos. When they all get together and they throw them one or two fellas in there with them that are, you know, high profile, they were hard to beat. They got the passion as well. They're sort of forgotten about those towns. But, you know, like Cabo a few years ago at was it at Leichhardt? Like I've never seen a crowd like that walk down to that bottom oval against Toomla. It was a bit like when Wack played Narwin at Raymond Terrace that day. All you could see is those.
Well, you're bringing back some good memories there, bro.
Bro, I know that was a fierce game and there was things said and done on the footy field, but he's played just a high quality brand football, and there's a lot of rivalry. Like Trent, George, and Matt. You know, Trent, he's a silent assassin. Like, you don't forget about him. He's probably one of the best knockout players you can come across.
He put some shots on.
Yeah,
100%.
And you know, it didn't matter who they were. He would bring them down no matter what, and he'd push himself till he'd bleed. You know, until he'd run out of petrol, and he'd just suck it in again and go again next set. And he could go the big fella.
It's funny, that game. That's one of my favourite knockout games. Well, we lost it.
Yeah.
We lost that game, and I did.
What was it,
I loved
14-12?
Was it
14?
14?
14-12, I think we got
14-12.
right at there.
Yeah.
We come from nowhere. We come from nowhere.
Yeah. I remember Dennis scored. Dennis scored the. Did he score the winner?
Nah,
I just remember he was ripping into us after one of the
was.
tries.
Nicky Moran come across and
Yeah.
pull Dino underneath
Yeah.
or someone like that.
He dropped me under and I scored, and
right in
I
the
think
belly.
I think I high fived every single Narwhal person in the crowd.
Yeah, were they friends
It
with
was
you
a
at that
mad
time?
game.
After
Oh,
that?
was a
but
mad
we
game.
always had that respect.
No,
you
I'm
know?
just saying, all the fielders, she was a good knockout batter.
Yeah. We had
Nothing
some
personal.
tough games, but we're always after the game, bro. The boys, always brothers. It was always
After the game, it was fine. But every time we took the field, and I, to be honest, no one always got the wood on us. Like they always would get us by those 2 points or 4 points, and we never looked forward to playing Narwhal because we knew that you guys played the same as what we did.
Same passion.
Same passion. So it was always going to be one of those games where you needed to sort of, the things we spoke about earlier, that one thing go your way, the missed tackle or the mistake or something, just to get you over the line. And I know that game it become even quite volatile at the end with
Wow.
used to running at
Yeah.
each other and stuff like that. So
He put the shot on me.
George-
Remember,
George
he
and-
drilled me, and he stood over me.
Yeah.
He stood over me, and pointed at my old man on the
yeah,
side.
I remember
Pointed at the side.
Jake was spraying
Yeah,
me.
he was
Jake had
spraying
been
you. I-
spraying me from the sideline the whole time.
And that's the thing. Like my dad, he's like he's real calm watching football, but at the knockout, he goes off his head, and he
Yeah.
got in arguing with this fella, and then George took it out on me, come across and wiped me out.
I feel like you had George and Pittman, two big fellas up front going hard.
Matty
Matt
Pittman.
and Dennis just full
Antagonising,
competitive,
competitive,
antagonising,
yeah.
scaring blokes from the other field, making sure if you run it, mate, he's going to drive you, and you sort of just tried out talk. But then you got you and Trenny, the skillful fellas through the middle, footwork, come back in. There was the big three on both sides.
But geez, you're wrapping the games up well there. What are you seeing over the years of different players and different standouts?
Well, like I said before, from the early age, 1989, I'd say, Wilfred Williams and Bull Dennis for Walgett. I didn't know a lot of the other players from the other sides. I only knew the Walgett fellas, but I always knew that there was Newcastle, Kempsey. As I got older, I noticed the Armidale, Narwin fellas come into it, and especially in probably late 90s, Armidale, and 2000s. Especially when you and Dennis came into it, I just thought to myself, if anyone wants to pick Narwin first game, I'm going to just say bye-bye. It doesn't matter who you are. Maybe Moree could put it to him in the earlier days.
Morey never ever beat Narwin in the knockout, only
no.
once.
But,
Out of all the times
they
ever
had
played.
jizz at Raymond Terrace. They just wouldn't.
Yeah, they had us there, but we come back.
I think it was a semi-final.
No,
or the final?
it was in the lead-up game.
Quarter-final,
We come back
quarter-final.
against everyone in those games. We come back against Toomala. We play Moree and Kempsey all on the same day. We come from behind on all of them and won all those games. But yeah, Boomies had us, didn't they? They scored and tried. The
They
big
did.
back rower went through. And
I think
scored for
Dennis
40.
might have took the tap at the end of the game. It could have been maybe a kick 30 metres out. He could have got a draw.
That was the next day against Minda
next
River.
against Minda River.
They
Okay,
blew it,
yes,
yeah.
it
You
was.
know what I feel about Raymond Terrace? I feel like that was the last time I remember seeing the Moree crowd. Remember when you go to the knockout and you'd see the
Narwin
Moree crowd?
Moree.
Kids growing up,
thousands,
Oh.
thousands had swarmed to the field when Moree played, and I remember that was the last time I remember seeing it when they'd
got
moved
an extra
from
game.
Field 3 and Field 2. They moved over to that Field 1 because that's where Moree was playing, and it was just packed every time
love
against
it.
the rings.
Actually, you go back in the past. I don't know if you remember. You talk about Jeff. Talk to Jeff when he comes on. It was at I don't know whether it was the last year of the knockout, and for some reason, this is what used to happen in knockout a lot of the time. They'd end up with 3 teams at the end. You wouldn't think about it
In the draw,
or
the
5
instead of having
teams.
They work it out later,
So they'd
working
be
it out later.
working it out later. Once you got through, you're going, well, who's going to get the bye at the end? I don't know if you remember, but Moree got to go through to the grand final, and BAC had to play whoever to go through. And remember, they had the song at the time, "Show No Mercy," Tom? Yes. Remember that? And so they
Where
had,
was this at, the way you just think?
this was at Walgett. And so they had that song going. Yeah, and they had it on the back of their shirts. And so it must have been about 89, 90. And they were cruising around, and there was that excitement. There was, I reckon, there was most of Moree was there. You know what I mean? And the excitement around that they'd gone through, and we played the next morning, and went through and played them. But it was that crowd that continued to come through that 80s, 90s.
I don't think we've ever seen anything else like it.
Yeah,
like
nah.
the crowd they used to have back in the day.
Nah,
it's the best.
If they played on a field, It was just pandemonium. It was just like everyone
Yeah, it was
that
the
much
best.
excitement. Just even when they were warming up, they'd be out the backfield warming up. They were the next game, but their crowd had already built in and was already there, and you could just see, geez, something exciting's coming in. They go, now the Rangs are playing next day. Everyone would stop on that field. We've got to get back to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that year at Moree, Tom, you might talk about when you played the brothers, Windradine. Yeah?
Windradine, we put probably our third side in, and our captain was Rob Walford. He's passed now, our cousin. He was the captain, and he played with Bathurst Panthers or Penguins back in the day. I wasn't quite sure which club at the time, but he never played footy for 8 weeks. He was suspended, and he said, and we'd always talk to Rob. We call him Cuz, and we'd say, and we'd go, Cuz, who's going to get lifted first running? And we'd say, oh, I feel sorry for that first bloke who runs it. And
He used to hit a May off the
we used to
kickoff.
say, and even the local fellas even the white fella said, you can hit this fella. So what happened? Old Cuz from Brothers ran off the kickoff. And
There was a big excitement, but brothers were in, so it was
tough.
made up of, I don't know how they did it, but
All the prisoners that were
all
getting out
at
there
the time, all the boys that were locked up and they were able to come and play. And so the excitement of them being in the knockout was everyone,
People
that was
pump
sort of
up
like
for 'em,
everyone's
mate.
second team, right?
Everyone would go for them.
Yeah.
Wanted to stay in as long as they
Windradine
could.
drew them at about 6 o'clock at
yeah,
night,
it was,
wasn't it?
and then they were the
it was on
unknown too,
dark.
because you wouldn't know who they had.
Yeah.
You can't go for any,
the-
no sheets, no
Yeah.
team sheets. Min numbers. Anyway, sorry, Matt.
Anyway, no. And so the excitement around that, it just built. And
Rob.
Tom tells it best.
He said-
when the Windradine kicked off, kicked it deep.
Rob sprinted. Rob just said, I have another game for. I said, he just sprinted down and old Cuz ran it. And he was big. Rob just went whack. And old Cuz's legs were about 2 metres in the air. It was probably 3, but I'd say, it was about.
He went 5 metres up in the air.
He hit him, mate.
He hit him.
He was flat.
And that's what that game sort of set the standard for Windradine for that knockout, and they went through to the final.
We-
But it was that game against the brothers team, which went right down to the wire too.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
when-
we only sort of got. I think there was a brother playing against a brother-in-law, the sort of thing, and our mate got bit in the hand in the game, and it was big. It was one of the Lake brothers who supports the Yowies, Lakey. What's his name? Rodney.
Rodney Lake.
Yeah, Rodney. So he
That
shout
a
out
good
to
little
Cuz.
Cutmore was halfback.
Oh, little Cutmore's halfback. He was.
Trina's brother.
Yeah, he's
my
a good
cousin. Yeah.
Oh, he
He
was a
played
good
with
player.
Cowra. He was only like little skinny fella, and he used to chop
Oh,
him.
he was dangerous. He was a
He was
good
like Wes
footballer.
Patton. He was like a Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin, little Herbie Cupmore. He was a good player. back in
Yeah.
the days,
Yeah, so when we played, Rob sunk him, and then the boys were like, okay, then this means business. Anyone that was a sort of like a 70% out of 100 type of ability, they just went rocketed up because Cuz set the standard,
I think you said earlier about the Bummies, and they haven't been a force for a little while, but
Back
last year
They're back last.
I felt was the first year I felt like they were really back in the knockout in a big way. Like they seemed like the team like you didn't really want to play.
the attitude was right.
And coming from the boys that are starting to think, Munns and
Big
Toby,
Toby, captain
they-
coach.
They got some good ideas on what they do, and you could see last year when they really rattled Yowies and it went right down to the wire. So and probably took a lot out of Yowies from that game, to be honest, to go into the next one.
Well, they've got a few plays in the Moree Wars that I watched down there in Group 4, and there's a few fellas there that don't play for the Rangs in the knockout, and I think they could probably grab a few more young fellas there, and they're quality, so
They could be back.
can
The
improve.
Bummies could be back.
And they've got the connection with the Gagai boys and the McLean brothers, so that's some good footballers. And I think a couple of the Rangs boys played against them in that Yowies game, the Neen boys and that there. So they've got some fellas that they can pull back into their community, and they could be anything next year.
They got a style about them, when they play Bummies. I remember playing them in the grand final in the Armdale knockout in 2001. Brad Ty was in their side. They had just speed everywhere. And
I don't think it's changed. I think the way
But
they
they
played
keep a
last
style,
year,
they got a style.
that same like thread out wide, like they're able to just move the ball
The
quick.
shifts are fast.
And if something, little half break, Toomala's a bit the same. If a little half break goes or someone steps someone, they all seem to just move at once and they all go at the same time. And
That's
next
one
thing you
team
know,
I
it's
never want to play in the first 4
Toomala.
rounds.
Toomala.
Toomala, you played Toomala in the first 4 rounds, you're near certain they're going to get you because they have the ability to put anyone on the field to play any position, and they just all play football. They're all exceptional talent, and they find a way to score tries and hold tries out without a forward pack. You know, like a big, like we rely a lot on our big 4-pack. That's the style we played, and
They're still doing it.
Even if you look at back when Dadnut won it, they had big forward pack with Bull
Jeffo,
Dennis and
tough people right in the middle.
Jeffo and Dadnor. All those guys were really strong in the middle. Wilfred,
Grant Trindle.
Yeah, so many good players. Toomala have played a different
Buddy.
style all the time like that, and they play that really exciting type. They can shift it in their own 10 metres and take off, you know.
2 hit-ups. They just do 2 hit-ups.
That same arm rail knockout in 2000, I played against them, Toomala, and there was Ewan, Barry, Brett, Jason, all of them were in the team. Rick, they were all over 45. They were all, and I remember walking off the field and going, "My dad, we only beat them by 2 points or 4 points, and we were all young, fit, and."
Rick's still bumping them.
I said to my dad, I said, "Oh, that one of the fastest games of football I play." He goes, "Mate, you're playing them when they're over 45." He goes, "I had to play them when they were in their 20s." He goes,
We played them
"I
at
should've played
40.
20 years ago." He goes, they could just. And you're right, they never had any go for it. They'd sort of just one followed run and fall.
With an offload. They'd sometimes turn to an offload on you.
Towards the end of the tackle.
That's
That was spark them.
Sometimes they could do that and they weren't even looking like they were running fast, but they knew how to drag you in.
Champion football players.
2 hit-ups. 2 hit-ups out the backs and they'd blay you.
It's actually a club I never want to not see in a knockout is Toomala. I every time they come, I always take the chance to go and watch them play because I just enjoy watching them play football.
Remember when Sunboy got us at Henson Park? That was the first time I ever got to play
But
against
he
Sunboy
played
Peckham.
Moree, yeah?
Yeah, he played for
Yeah.
Moree. I remember
could
we just
play.
couldn't stop him. Couldn't get him down, eh?
It didn't matter who we
impossible.
sent at him. It was impossible. He was every time he'd run the ball, without a doubt, he'd go 20 or 30 metres. Some boy was one of the most damaging runners I've ever seen, and I don't even think that. I think that was at the end of his
was
career,
well at
by
the
the
end of
way.
his career, yeah.
It wasn't when he was actually in his prime. So, and I'm sure people can tell a lot of stories about some boy, but for me that day, us trying to stop him at Anson Park, he destroyed us, but
Do you remember
we never forget it.
Do you remember who
It's
he had on
unbelievable.
the inside and outside of him? I think Scotty Briggs halfback, Sooty
Scotty
Sampson
was young.
5'8",
Yep.
and Jake was in the centres, or he was playing lock. So I watched them that day before they beat yous on the bell.
Yeah.
Sooty just comes across, puts his pass back in the inside of the Sunboy. He just goes in untouched.
Well, if I'm correct, didn't we go an extra time with them? At that stage, we were playing extra
right at
time.
the
I'm
end.
sure it went golden point, and we had a goal. We were going to go for a goal on the sideline. I said I was going to take it, I think, and then I threw it to Trenny. I thought, no, I'll just throw it to Trenny.
He would've
And
kicked it.
it was right on the sideline. No, we ended up missing it and went into extra time. And again, I think it might have come from a Sunboy break, and we got beaten. It was that oval. You probably remember, Dino, is the Henson Park, and it was about all that sand on the top. And so when you got tackled, I got to see one of the pictures the other day, sand just kept flying
right,
up.
yeah.
You remember Waterloo should have beat Wes's team, and
Yeah.
Chalk made that half break.
Yeah,
and
Wes run him down.
Yeah.
Wes run him down.
But
Wes was
these fellas made the semis too that year.
Yeah.
They did. No Dennis. No Dennis. So you were just missing the extra little fella to could
Well,
take
Ray,
the...
there was about 7 knockouts in there that either I was away or he was away,
Yeah,
missing
wow.
for the time.
Well,
we
I'm
were
glad-
letting
I'm
go.
glad.
we're probably lucky for us that you weren't together for those 7, because I think you were in UK at different stages, were
Yeah,
you?
at different times.
Actually-
We had a good side back then when we got them all there, but like you said, it was a bounce of the balls there. And got done by Lapa. We wanted to play that Memorial team against Wesley and that. We just never ever got a crack at them. Somehow the draws never matched up.
Well, the Kempsey team played against Wes in that grand final, the semi-final it was, and this time they were called the Kempsey Dungutty Titans. You know, they've got
Yep.
about
100
15.
names.
I've got a different names. I've seen McLeod Valley. I've seen the Green Hill. I saw
Dungutty.
Aces. I've seen...
Narco.
Yeah, oh, geez. I think they had 7 teams
Kempsey
one
All
year.
Blacks. They were Kempsey All Blacks.
I think seven teams at Raymond Terrace there once. Only one of them didn't turn up, so that's a lot of players, Joe. Anyway, they...
Bro, we had one good old yarn because see, Armidale and Moree's got the biggest rivalry. And one year in Narwin, we drew the Moree Black Balls, they were called, out of Dubbo Knock at the first time we won out there. And I'll Clash Moran for us. We heard of all the Moree people our age. oh, they're going to forfeit. They haven't got a team. They didn't get enough players. So we're telling him, no, they haven't got a side. They're going to forfeit. And he just said to us, you silly idiots. They're playing with us. Moree will never forfeit to Armidale, and Armidale will never forfeit to Moree. So get ready. And it was the last game on the first day. So we hung around. We got in the sheds. We got everyone pumped up that the Moree was playing mind games with us. We ran out, bro. No team.
Was that like a little
all ran out, fired up, all turned up, jumping up out of our skin, and no team. They
little number 2
forfeited.
team or something, was it?
Yeah, they're Moree Black Boars, they were called. And I think it was the Boars were putting aside in the knockout.
Actually, we might
Oh,
have played Moree that year.
Never turned up.
Was that around 2000?
Yeah, 2000.
We played
2001,
Moree
right?
first game. They got us by 2 points.
Yeah, 2 points.
I remember I done something silly.
And the next day we
What did you do,
played the Boomies the next day,
Yeah,
and
we
we beat them.
might have.
And yeah, because we were saying with the
Yeah,
whole
it
thing
was.
was old Clary's. Don't because we were playing the Boomies the next day. They were like they'll come out and they'll just try and hurt you. So we went out all fired up, expecting a fiery game, but nothing come of it.
Yeah, we had them. We had Moree that game.
Tuck's blast from the past. You got anything, Tuck?
No, I used to go and the boys always used to try to shove me in the 100-metre sprints. So, and it was on the Monday, so we'd all go out. Well, probably Saturday and Sunday night. Don't tell anyone. But we were probably out till lucky the pub shut at 11 though on the Sunday because you'd wake up relatively fresh Monday, and I just had my old Narragansett gear on. I was a bit hungover. Boys said, "Come on, get out there and have a run, Tuck. You might sink them." Oh, rightio then. So I went down there, Durray. I lined up, and next minute these fellas took off, and I was waiting for old mate to say false start. He didn't, so I had to take off with him. Next minute I'm cruising, I'm coming last here. And next minute I get past him there, and I end up coming third. I reckon I got second, but I might have been that Dave Briggs fellow you was talking about, but I was only worried about the money because you got 150. I only got 50. I was scunnered. I probably only went to knockout with $50, and I thought I was going to go in with a profit. Then got drunk all weekend. We'd had to pay entry for $10. I didn't know I survived, but we just.
I reckon you were hard done by that one. I thought you would have won that, especially seeing you come home. You were flying home.
I was looking. There was about 20 blokes ahead of me.
Who are the speedsters, bro, that you've seen over the years?
There's been a few other dash for cashes too.
Yeah,
eh?
there's
What was
been
the
a
one
few.
out at Walgett?
Oh, that little fella from out at Toomala, that little red fella who won it, and he said he got back, he got the 100 or 200 off you fellas, he got in his car and went straight to Toowoomba. He didn't even.
Jean Shorts.
No, I've seen the Briggs fellas play for Kents on the wing. They were fast.
Dave Briggs, yeah.
Mully
flying,
fellas. They
yeah,
had some
Mully,
fast fellas. Oh man.
Willie Gordon.
Willie Gordon.
Time as a
when
sprinter. Willie Jacob, bro.
Walgett knockout.
what? Just no, I got knocked out.
We had that dash for cash out at Walgett that time.
Oh, we had the Walgett knockout. Jeff Owen them time when he was in his prime winning knockouts.
Who raced? It was Graham Lyons.
And Lionel Boney, two main fellas.
Yeah.
The Black Cat, he wouldn't have played.
Yeah, no,
Great.
Rick was there. Rick actually kicked the goal from halfway, and we went silly about it. So no one had kicked the goal from
There's
halfway.
a player there, bro. Ricky Warford.
Ricky Warford,
Jeez.
yeah.
He was
Rick
probably one of the
was
first
fast and-
knockout superstars I remember. Just
No, he was. He was
How
one of
good he
those
was.
ones where he at the time he was pinnacle in the NRL. He was like, and he'd come back and play with Walgett. And I remember always sitting around as a kid, and we'd all be sitting on the ball waiting to see if Rick would turn up in a big flash car at training.
had a flash
just
car.
on the Friday he'd turn up in a. What do you have? A Celica, no? Silica.
We were like the media.
Silica.
We'd all be there waiting with him,
Silica.
just watching.
Silica, and we'd just wait. You had that white Silica,
You had the black, you had the tinted
and
windows too,
tinted windows, and they say, "Here he is, here," and he'd turn up, and all of a sudden, the whole training would just lift because Rick had just turned up.
Bring that
and
atmosphere.
and again,
Ricky Walford t-shirts.
yeah, we had all the t-shirts ready to go, and Rick was that person that never ever not played knockout. He's probably one of the pioneers when it comes to
100%. He
put in his
playing
contracts.
NRL.
him, Rambo Gibbs, Cliffy Lyons was doing it back then. Cliffy turning up.
But if they didn't do that, there wasn't a sense of
wouldn't open
that
it up.
connection between able to do that. Because I feel now having the boys like when you see Latrell turn up, when George turn up, when
Right, is that why
Dino
you fight
turned
so
up.
hard to get it? Because it's probably not known out there, but a lot of these boys wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you pushing hard to get these boys there to the knockout.
It's always difficult with the clubs because they don't see it as.
But it's nearly impossible. I actually have to say, I don't know how you've pulled it off the last
Yeah.
few years to get these boys to go there, and it's only going to be good for our kids and our
but
models.
it's their,
Superstars too.
but it's their
100%.
passion. It's their
Superstars.
passion.
Their
Them boys,
passion.
have their passion and it's the same passion you had, Dino. It's the same that George had. It's the same that Rick had. Is that if they didn't have passion to come back, and play in the knockout, then they wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? They want to do it themselves, and that's why it gets pushed right to the brink. Is that they always want to turn up and play in that knockout.
How hard is it for you? Because and these fellas that you're pushing for, they're not playing for Wildwood. They're playing for all the other teams.
Yeah,
you
I remember
them everywhere.
There was probably about 3 years ago when they tried to block all the boys playing. I mean, there was. I remember it was Tyrone was at Wellington and Katoni might have been there, and there was all different players, all these teams, and they didn't want to allow the boys to play, and I think that loses its fabric to us. Like we want all the best of the best all chucked in, and it's always been like that. And,
see if you can beat them too.
We don't want to play a team that hasn't got their best players, you know, and going back to Rick, and that's what Rick turned up each year and would play at Walgett, and that'd always give us a lift. Even if we got beat first game, it was like Rick played in that game, you know, and then people who tackled Rick go, I tackled Ricky Walford, I tackled Dean Widders, I tackled Georgie Rose, whoever it is, and now they're doing it with Cody and Latrell and Katoni and Tyrone and all these guys that are playing at the moment.
It's still one of my. I was excited that I got to play against Dream Buller last year.
Yeah.
You know, it's still the same for me. You know, I used to love trying to get to tackle Dino.
Yeah.
When we played Macca, you know, Nathan Blacklock, and then even now, still when you get to, I was freaking out on that.
At an NRL club when we were coming through, the first thing they'd say to you all the time is, "You're not playing in that. Surely you're not going back there. You don't need to play in it. What have you got to prove?" They would just challenge you the whole way.
Yeah. Well, the first year that we won it in 2009, I remember my phone was ringing red hot from Manly all weekend, and I didn't pick up my phone. They were ringing me. They were ringing Matt. They were even ringing Mum. They were ringing everyone non-stop all weekend. George and I listened.
It was Giggy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Giggy was
Kangaroo. You made the Kangaroo tour that year?
Do not take the field. Do not play in that game. If you play, you know, there's consequences if you do it all weekend.
I got to say, and this one of the biggest sacrifices I've seen from anyone was when you had the grand final on the same day, and you played in the knockout the same morning, and then there's been other cases where you've had grand finals where you've signed on and been ready, or that you're coming back to play on the Monday and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That tells all the mob out there how much it means to you, doesn't it?
In 2005, it was my last year at the Roosters, so I knew I couldn't get in trouble from the club. But we had the grand final that day, but we also played Hughes in the repechage that same morning. And I just wanted to play. Like, I'd had a rough year. I wanted to play, and I wanted to play with the boys. And so I went down there that morning, played, got lifted a few times. We ended up winning, which was mad, but... You know, at the end of it, I remember I still had dirty knees. I chucked my Roosters tracksuit on. I went and jumped on I met him at the bus there at Moore Park, and we went out to the stadium. And I was thinking, fuck, I've got to play a good game today. Otherwise, I'm gone if I don't play good. So I went out and I had a dig. But I remember when I was getting strapped, I was saying, "What's happened here?" Because I had blood and dirt all over my knees. I was getting strapped up for the grand final. But yeah, it did. It meant a lot.
I remember you playing that and coming back that afternoon. And I said to you, George, said, how did you feel in that game? Did you feel buggered? He said, oh, not really. He said that knockout game was harder than that grand final. Yeah, it was. And, you know, and that just shows.
This fella trying to
it's a different style, I reckon, that the boys have to come back and play too. And you guys would have known is that...
It's reactive.
It's a different style of football to NRL in a sense that you don't have the same systems around you. It's a different style of footy. It's shorter, faster. Like there's a lot. When I say faster, it's things can change quite quick.
Yeah.
In terms of the style of footy that's played in knockout, all of a sudden you could be down 12-0 and the game's gone. You know, that's how quick the game can get away with you. As we get closer to the finals, you get the semi-finals and finals, the style changes because you've got to revert back to more that system-based.
The long football.
Yeah, long footy. Yeah, but in that 20 minutes each way, it's the most unique football I think that can ever be played, and the most exciting football that can ever be played. Whether you're an NRL player, whether you're any player that plays in a knockout, that 20 minutes each way can get you.
Well, I got one for you. I think we played at Armidale that when we went back when we had that little rake-up side. I think we got a couple of players from different teams. We got them out of their team to come play with us, the local Walgett fellas. We played the Emus first game. We had them like 24-0 at half-time. and they come back right at the end. It was 24-22, I think, by the end of it, or 28 to whatever. It was very close. But then the year after, we played them first game again, and they beat us convincingly.
Yeah, we
With
had
the
a
same
good
players.
rivalry with them. Yeah,
With the
it's like
same players, you know what I mean? The different style.
There was a period of time where we drew emus
The
fairly
Briggs,
earlier.
Briggs.
And it was I think
Malcolm and Ed were still running around back then, yeah.
Ed and Malcolm were there, and they were always tough. And I think it was about out of the 6 years we drew them 4 times, and it may have been about a couple each, but they were really good rivalries during that period of time, early 2000s.
Might have been that bit of Armidale flavour in their team. What do you reckon?
Well, all our mobs, see, the NAB boys,
Smith boys and-
Smith boys, the Gordons, Darryl
Yeah.
from up there, and there's a whole heap of them. Cameron Moran's in there, Stevie Widders, like that's
They come along
mob
over.
versus mob. And I think they got that same passion for the knockout from their uncles who played for Narwhal, all the old Morans, and Edward and Malcolm had that. They played with us at Narwhal. That's why I always say, like, the passion that you fellas have got at Walgett that started from your fathers and grandfathers and then brings you through to win it. Narwhal had the same, and our next generation won it. You get it from Redfern with some of their... It's only certain groups, I believe, that have got that passion that they grew up with watching their parent, that they've been able to win it and replicate the same success. Have you noticed that what happened 20 years ago in the knockout, Walgett,
Still
Narwhal,
relevant.
It comes back 20 years later and them same teams sort of win. Like, it's...
Well,
For me, it's no
It took
fluke.
us a long time. Like, it took us 20-odd years to win again, And during that time, we had the highs and lows, but we never really got that close till...
Third
till
round
right
was
at the
probably
end. Yeah, third round, but we
was
turned
big.
up each year, so...
And these days, the three of you brothers don't play as much minutes as what you did back then, but that same passion is in that team, that Walgett team, and obviously a great win there last year with up against War, who were probably heavy favourites.
Oh,
but it was that
heavy.
passion to win, and Benny Barber's got the same sort of drive
mate.
and hunger, like. They're great footballers. There's so many great footballers in the knockout, but you get this special desperation and hunger. And you watch Benny Barber, he's got it, and all the other players that you got in your team, they've got that same drive and passion, and you've instilled that in them.
Well, it's good because we've now got the young boys coming through that were, again, like the ball boys and
Trell Bell and-
running the tee and stuff like that are now doing what we did when we come through at the start, So we did it at a time, so, our fathers and uncles and everything got to do it, win it. We did it. Now there's the new boys that are just starting to come through now at the age of probably a bit younger than what we were, to be honest.
Would you-
And we've kept that solid base of players. I mean, we looked at our squad from last year, and we've still got, something like half still that have played for the last 10 years.
That's
So
big.
we've
Yeah.
managed to keep people all the time too, and then just add in here and there. And when boys are old enough to play, they've been coming through, Latrell, Cody, Tice.
One thing I will add to that though too is keep an eye on our ball boys at the moment, because we've got about 22 ball boys running for us.
Yes.
We got Matt's kids, we got my kids, we got Dylan Walford's kids, Grant Walford's kids,
son's there.
Tom's kids. Everyone's there,
That
so
passion's
we
there.
know the pathway that we come through. So if it looks like we've got a lot of ball boys and water boys,
You're
it's
right.
because we want them to get that same feeling.
Most of them kids there's names that you just said, they won't grow up in Walgett, will they?
No, but they're Kennedys, they're
but
Simpsons.
It gives them the chance to go back and know what community is and what family is, because your boys are going to grow up. Same as my boys and Dennis's boys. Like, they have to move away, but they still love
Let me
Narwhal
ask you.
and the passion for Narwhal, and as what we've all had, and that's how you instill it.
Can I ask you, your sons, when they, in the last, how old's your son who
He's
played?
23 now, yeah.
Well, I got a 15-year-old that's been looking at knockout clips probably for the last 5 years, but in the last 3 months, he's driven me crazy, and he's asking for all photos. Who was a good player from Armidale, Walgett, Windradine, any team? And he's like, he keeps sending me his photos on my phone. Oh, come on, son, have a blow now. But he just loves it. But it's, he nearly cries when he says, Dad, I wish I seen those fellas play. And I was in that era back in the early 90s, like when Walgett played. When I'm talking about Bert Gordon, when I'm talking about Wilfred, when Buddy and that, when Jeffo, and they used to stand over footballers. And Wilfred Williams would grind his teeth. He said, I love playing with E.A. Dennis. And because he's an aggressive fella, because he could fight, he said. He said, he used to just take him outside and just bash him. And he said, when I done that, no one wanted to play against us. And so when you got them and know the likes of George Ashby and Jeffo just outsmarting teams when these blokes are tough as nails. You got a good team there. But going back from, they learnt all that stuff from the older blokes before them.
Bro, do you believe, and Jeff's here now to talk too, but is that the culture that we missed out on as blackfellas growing up with, about ceremony and getting initiated and getting taken bush? We didn't get that as kids growing up, and our fathers didn't get it. So do you think the knockout because the knockout is like ceremony, that's the initiation.
It's a modern day one, yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to our identity. So, we have to keep doing it for the next generation as well, and creating these opportunities and growing the passion in the young people and the old people still, and that's a really important part of our cultural responsibility. You mentioned it earlier.
It's obviously that Hoosier mob where you're from. It's given him that connection with place, and he's proud of where he's from through WAC.
100%, and that's what I mean about him getting to spend that time with Dylan Walford's kids, with Grant Walford's kids. They're all the same age. They're Walgett boys, but he gets to spend that time with them and watch them. And they can play footy too, the boys. Don't worry about that.
Rough.
Even when we moved house, he made a little shrine in his cupboard. So he's got this wax shelf where he's got his jersey. He's got his photos that he got with, I think Trellbell's his favourite player. So he's got a photo of him and Trellbell in there. And he's got his whack, everything whack, shorts, socks, everything is set up on a shelf. And that's all he wants to do when he grows up.
So, brother, that must be special, because you talked about, and Matt talked about, watching your dad as a young fella and growing up, and now your son is getting. It's the connection all the way through, eh? It's beautiful when you think about it.
Well, that's how we keep our connection too. We grew up watching that. We grew up around that, and that's all we ever wanted to be as kids. I used to watch a Jeffo with him, and yeah.
I used to play with. I played with his dad, their dad as well. But in 88, 89, 90. And then I was just reflecting. I was thinking about last year with my son Tyson, and Cody was injured, and my nephews, and it was a thrilling celebration. Like, I just had tears in my eyes. I was so emotional and so passionate about it. Just to plan it, to think about it, and to experience it with everyone, and also to see our kids and our families. It means so much. Like, no one will ever really understand how much it means until you actually come participate in it with us.
Over 30 years later, you get to sit there and watch your son win a knockout.
It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
And your son's first cousins, they're all playing together.
Yeah.
Like all the Latrell Sigwells and the Cody Hodge and Tyson Hodge, they're all,
Zach Sadler.
me, I'm involved. We all come from the same grandparents, And Zach, their best mate. Who else? The combination of the old Walford fellas are in there. That's all my mob as well. And there's that blood in there from the original days of Walgett is still, going over again.
See what we're talking about here is passion and love and family, and you fellas wear different jerseys to what I've worn, but you can get that same love and respect for someone who feels that same way about their team. And that's what I love when talk to you fellas about knockout, talk to people from Redfern about the knockout, the Laperouse mob, how much they love it.
They're
You go
the same.
to Kempsey, Nambucca and Paulie Davis, like you sit with Paulie and have yarns and how much he loves it. And it's something special that blackfellas have. And a lot of people from outside our circles, they're starting to catch the knockout now in the mainstream rugby league fans. I hope that they're seeing something like this and they're seeing this is why it means so much to these fellas.
I remember playing Paulie Davis and Big Dicko back in, I think it was Newcastle in 88 or 89, must have been 88. They were unstoppable.
Brett Davis, Donovans.
They were
Brett was
unstoppable. It was
unbelievable.
just, but that's who we are as blackfellas, Dino. That's part of our DNA, is about that carnival and that connection. And you're right, we do have to
That was some players
pull each
there.
other up, not pull each other down.
When they talking about the Nambucca, the Brett Davises, Matt Donovan, Leon Donovan. Leon Donovan looked like a monster when you were a kid. As you grew a bit older, you thought he was not that big, but Hilton. But they were just so good.
Them Taree fellas were the biggest black fellas we've seen till Nambucca come along and had 20 of them in the one side.
I reckon they were all big down to the. Even halfbacks were big. They're big, isn't it?
Then you go at the Burke and
the
to the
Orchards.
Gibbses and the Orchards. You know?
Yeah, the big boys, big strong
Did they
boys.
tuck? They know how to tuck any
ankle
lower than
tap
there,
jobs.
or-
No, they were ankle tap jobs. Those fellas.
Gee, and then you had the Bree fellas, the Bonies, and they could pass the ball around, zip. You know, they just had the skill. Yeah, but those fellas up there like that, you forget about the Brett Davises. He was one pretty footballer. I remember watching him as a young fella. He would just, you know, you think you got it one, and then he's like Ewan McGrady.
Interesting stylistic wise, eh? Like the big size from out the west to the
Well,
to
we
the
didn't have many big
prettiness on the
fellas.
coast
Yes.
to the ad lib of Tumala to the toughness of
Laparoos is going to
Moree.
be very professional, very fit. They want to work and grind you into the ground. They've always been a side that always been tough to play.
They
Laparoos.
must have went to a lot of training, though.
They're fit, bro. They're always well prepared. You got to give it to them. They're
And they
always
live
up
together,
there. If usually the teams that beat them seem to go a long way in the knockout because you got to be prepared if you're going to beat Laparoos.
You think Lapa boys skip Tuesday training, fitness day, like some other team? Because I don't see many big fellas in that side. They were just fit all the time. We're out our way, like boys, Madden turned up Thursday.
End of it all now, bros.
Yeah, look, I reckon we could keep talking for another 2 hours, but the thing is that we're going to keep doing this every week or every fortnight, so it'll be a regular thing. We'll make sure that we get on a new guest and a new team representative each week. So if you know the person in your team who tells the best yarn, make sure you put their name forward and they can come on here and tell some yarns about your community, about your team. But this will keep coming. We're looking forward to the knockout this year, and we're going to keep talking knockout week in, week out. As I said, Jeff Simpson is the contact for this year's knockout, and anyone looking to lodge your nomination forms, any questions about the knockout, contact Jeff. He's the man for the job. Now you've seen his face, you can't dodge him, so he's the one for it. But we really appreciate you tuning in for this week. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, The Koori Knockout. We're on there, so that's where you'll find everything cut up and be able to watch it. We'll share this podcast week in, week out, and look forward to having more knockout yarns. I want to thank Dino. Dino will be here regularly. Tommy Tucker will be here regularly for Tuck's Blast from the past, and you'll see more of Jeffo for sure. But anyone that you want to put forward for your team, make sure you send it through. All right.